In my opinion, Greasus is the worst legendary lord right now. Let's not have Ogre man boobs flying through the camera. Anyway, today's Kark is going to be taking him against Slaanesh in a domination battle against Alric Rao. Let's take a look at the starting armies. Greasus leading the way with his anti-large magic damage and incredibly slow speed, lack of armor, lack of melee defense. He's got some bulls. Let's see here. Looks like lead belchers. Yeah, Gnoblars up front, Lore of Fire on that fire belly. And then we've got some Gnoblar trappers up on the high ground for Slaanesh. Looks like a Herald of Slaanesh for Alric. A couple of soul grinders here, a couple of spawns, and some spears. Let's go ahead and look at the reserves as they start to stream in. For Kark's Ogre reserves, he's got a single Mournfang Cavalry, 2 dual weapon bulls, 4 shield bulls, 1 regular bull, 4 Sabertusk Pack, 2 Gnoblar trappers, and 2 Gnoblars. For Alric's Slaanesh reserves, he's got 2 spawns, 3 Hellscourge Hellstriders, 4 regular Hellstriders, 2 devoted spears, and 2 Chaos Furies. And here we are. So yeah, some of those dual weapon bulls, Gnoblars coming out of reserve, amassing a huge critical mass of ogres in melee. One thing about Slaanesh into ogres is Slaanesh, even though they are very good, they're very fast. Ogres are also pretty fast on average, right? Gnoblars are slow, but all ogre units are reasonably quick. I mean, 50 speed, I think. Yeah, 54 speed. So they can definitely get onto points very quickly. They also hit really hard, which hurts a lot of Slaanesh low HP units. There is going to be kind of an extended redeployment phase, though. So let's go ahead and fast forward through this initial kind of setup as we kind of talk about things here. Greasus is large and slow. I mean, he definitely is not even as fast as the ogres, but his huge anti-large magic damage can punch a lot of Slaanesh units pretty hard. And the fact that he is large, I mean, Slaanesh, weirdly enough, does have a little bit of a lack of anti-large. They do have the Soul Grinders, which are dedicated anti-large melee units. Of course, the Hellstriders, anti-large and quite strong. And the Spears, of course. But beyond those few units, you don't really have a lot. And the Spears and the Hellstriders are both fairly flimsy. One of the most powerful things about the Hellstriders, too, is this Soul Hunter's passive, which, unless they manage to break and rout some Gnoblars, they're not likely to get a ton of value from this. Unlike, say, against another faction with actual light cavalry, where they could kill quite a few models of the light cavalry in order to charge this up a bit in the initial phases of the battle. Instead, here against the ogres, I mean, like I said, other than eating a routed Gnoblar, they're not going to be able to charge that up very efficiently at all, so they'll get hit pretty hard by the ogres in return, especially with Lore of Fire on the field. Let's go ahead and take a look here, swing over as both these players continue to just kind of set up with Lore of Fire. He's got just Burning Head, it looks like. No Flaming Sword of Ruin, which is an interesting choice. Rag Banner as well, though, for a little bit of extra leadership in an AoE around him. Definitely good to have against the terrors of Slaanesh. But let's keep fast forwarding. Both players playing very patiently at this point, not wanting to overcommit. Obviously, Kark's in a great position here. He doesn't really need to overcommit to try and take another objective. The impetus is definitely on Alric, but Slaanesh charges down from the hill. And both the Soul Grinders get into combat here to try and break some of these ogres. We see a nice Burning Head from Kark. It's going to go up and probably bounce off the cliff. So a lot of people don't realize this. I've talked about it a little bit in the past, but AoE damage wind spells like that will actually bounce off impassable terrain. So I love that kind of double tap of the Burning Head there to rout off a number of Slaanesh units, especially those supporting spears. Kind of leaves those Soul Grinders isolated. Granted, both the bulls rout away, but here Alric has an opportunity. Both of these Soul Grinders should just collapse directly into Greasus. He's not fast enough to get away, and with all these supporting units active, they have a clear avenue to go directly after him, then send these Hellstriders in to interrupt whatever else. But instead, the Soul Grinders are going to go after the Lead Belchers, which I understand to a degree. The Hellstriders kind of pile in against the Sabertusks there, which is going to be a brutal engagement on both sides. The Hellstriders will trade okay initially, but the high weapon strength of those Sabertusk packs will definitely hit them quite hard. So an unfortunate situation, and again, the Soul Grinders just kind of overcommitting in this engagement when they should really be sniping Greasus. One Acquiescence from the Herald here on Greasus, and the 2 Soul Grinders pounding him. Could probably get rid of him pretty quickly, but taking a sort of wide look at the battlefield here, Ogres pressuring on a number of fronts. We've got some Mournfang dual weapons, really? Or no, Ogres with dual weapons, regular Mournfangs, I was going to say. I didn't think that was a variant, but just blocking the spawn here, dragging them down. We've got some more Bulls coming out of reserve here. Hellstriders going way up and around, trying to get some kind of a flank attack, but really just going to be on top of the deployment for the Ogres and at risk of getting mass destroyed there. Another big burning head goes all the way across the field, manages to just touch the end of that Marauder there and hopefully help them rout. But the Ogres are starting to run out of steam a little bit. The Slaanesh initial charge definitely washes up, gets a ton of value, but not as much as the Ogres are getting punching back. A lot of these ranged units are able to still stay online. The Trappers and the Lead Belchers just doing huge amounts of damage to that Soul Grinder there. Dismember has been popped as well to debuff the speed of a lot of these units here. They can't get away. And we see this Soul Grinder trying to get to Greasus, but just taking waves and waves of armor-piercing missile fire. And as a result, like as soon as he gets into combat with Greasus, he's just going to disintegrate anyway. And again, the 2 Soul Grinders kind of being split up, I don't know if it would have gone that great for the single Soul Grinder anyway. I think Greasus probably has a good chance of winning that, especially with the Fire Belly supporting. But let's see, more spawns charging in here. We're going to see another excellent Burning Head placement as well. Interesting to see Burning Head from Ogres. I mean, it's sort of a spell that has been cast a little bit by the wayside. It's still very good, but not nearly as good as it was in Warhammer 2. I will say, though, against Slaanesh, it makes a lot of sense going after their light units, especially in Domination. You can pretty much guarantee they're going to bring a host of Marauders on some level, so a little bit of lash from Slaanesh, though. Get that nice map-wide melee attack buff from the Blissful Rapture, and should be able to get some pretty good value right now. Slaanesh did manage to push and capture, yeah, all 3 objectives, it looks like. So, tough situation to be in for the Ogres, but they definitely have the speed and mass to respond. Up here on the high ground, the Bulls with dual weapons, Mournfangs get in here, and be able to crush this objective fairly quickly. Hellstriders won't be able to do too much, especially against the Mournfangs. Their armor will help them out quite a bit there, although probably not wildly cost-effective trade, but there we go. A little bit of Pavena Slaanesh and Fascination to pull both of these Lead Belchers into melee. Maybe the Soul Grinder can get on them and drag them down. Here we see Greasus, once he gets isolated, gets hit by that poison, by the Soporific Musk, gets his stats severely debuffed. Not actually getting hit by the Soporific Musk right now, but you know what I mean. Yeah, he is going to start to take some damage there. We'll kind of have to keep that in the background and look. Herald is also taking significant damage too. She's got to be careful not to get sniped out. But Mournfangs and Bulls just intercepting the Hellstriders. Managed to cap that objective here in the center. We're also getting some more bodies on the objective to recap this. Ogres will just straight up outweigh spawn in capture weight because of the changes made to Ogres in 2.2. They are quite a bit more viable now in Domination, and it's interesting to see this. I mean, I would say Alric, we've already seen. He's an experienced tournament player, great player, made a couple of mistakes in this match, but it's just interesting to see that even though his build might not be completely optimized, the fact that Slaanesh is struggling right now against Kark's Greasus build here actually does give me hope for Ogres for the future in Domination. Right now, I mean, army damage value-wise, Kark's still a decent amount ahead. Not too far ahead, though. Like, he hasn't raced out 3,000, 4,000 points ahead yet. It's still maintained about 1,000 damage value lead, even less maybe. But things are looking overall pretty solid. Right now, the Ogres are able to re-amass a bunch of units here, kind of get them all back from routing. And with Slaanesh starting to run out of steam in the back line, they all get to recover their leadership and come recontribute to the battle. Greasus, unfortunately, does eventually get dragged down here by the Hellstriders and everything else. If he actually gets straight up killed, that will be a big issue for the Ogre's leadership, but still got about 300 HP. He's able to kind of squeeze his belly through the man boobs of his fellow Ogres and hopefully get out of this situation before the Soul Grinder finishes him off. But let's see. Hasn't taken any more hits since we last checked in with him, and he is just struggling to escape this combat. struggling to push through his own ogres. Yeah, honestly, if they gave Greasus like 80, 85 armor, they'd give him plus 30 armor, honestly, and he'd be pretty solid. That would definitely make him quite a bit better. Like, in that situation there, he wouldn't have just died to low tier like spears and like mid tier, maybe high tier like cavalry, Hellstriders, but still dying to like a bunch of cheap non-AP stuff. It's pretty sad, but at this point, Kark's starting to take a pretty decisive advantage. He's going to be able to cap this center objective with all of these ogres. Look at this. That's 4 units, 5 units of bulls, all fighting here. Soul Grinder's going down. This unit of Hellstriders going down soon too. Look at this though. Alric does bring in this extra unit of Hellstriders, perhaps to chase Greasus. Yeah, if they can finish Greasus off, that's going to be huge for the Ogre's leadership. It'll be a lot easier to rout the Ogre's units, but plenty of Ogres here to collapse and try and bail Greasus out. Let's keep it close. Keep the health bar up. Poor old Greasy boy. Yeah, it really hasn't taken much damage at all. Hellstriders just not able to get attack animations in for whatever reason. I was talking to a CA dev actually recently about pursuit behavior. They were saying that, yeah, there's some kind of oddities with how units chasing routing units are coded. Sometimes they all won't, like, I think only 40% of them do attack animations is what he was saying, something like that. Which was something that was programmed some time ago, and then no one questioned it for a while. And I know a lot of people have complained about like chasing routing units not feeling right somehow. Like, it feels like the unit that's doing the chasing oftentimes just isn't getting very much damage in, because that is true. That is actually the case. But Greasus gets retreated there, so the Ogres don't suffer the Lord Snipe leadership penalty, which is going to be huge as they try and hold this late game. Up to now 2,000 damage value ahead, which is pretty solid. But of course, Slaanesh's speed always going to be threatening your objectives, so even with a damage value lead pretty considerable, you still have to stay on your toes here. Saber Tusks, Noblars, and Bulls trying to reinforce this objective. Love this rear charge of Bulls here too. All the same happens up on the high ground. Oh yeah, dual weapons just swinging wildly for the fences. Swing, bada bada. World Series is going on right now. Not that I actually care about baseball at all. You shouldn't either, because it's very boring. But that is technically a thing someone's talking to me about today. Anyway, yeah. Speaking of this game, though, much more important here. Still controlled by Slaanesh. This victory point up here, this objective is also heavily in control of Slaanesh. The Bulls sent to win this objective were not able to quite deal with the mass of Hellstriders, but perhaps the Iron Fists will have better luck with their higher melee defense, higher armor. They'll get in here, 40 armor, 34 melee defense. They didn't get charged by the Hellstriders either, which is super important, but man, I love the puff of pink smoke as Hellstriders get killed. It's like so satisfying, especially because Hellstriders are so strong. Anytime you see those multiple puffs of pink smoke, it's just nice. Looks like Pavane being popped there. Fascination, rather. Massacre also gets popped, though, which, I mean, the terror is not going to matter, but the buff of the weapon damage in particular will be quite nice against Slaanesh. Just a nice AoE weapon damage buff on demand to help punch through those Hellstriders, who, at the end of the day, are fairly squishy. Even though they're one of the best cavalry in the game right now, still don't have a ton of HP. That said, Kark is actually in a position where he needs to 3-cap. Alric had a 3-cap in place for long enough that now Kark is in a position to get as well. So let's see. Keep the focus on this high ground here as Kark continues to maneuver in more troops. The Bulls holding out against the Hellstriders as we get Noblars and Saber-Tusk packs and whatnot coming through. Slaanesh doing their best just to block them forward from the objective right now. Alric understanding that he needs to keep Kark from being able to get any captures, but let's see. More Hellstriders coming up right now. Slaanesh does have some supply to be able to resummon, especially units like off this Vanguard straight onto this position, but let's see. Hellstriders, once the Noblars and Saber-Tusks move in, they're just going to get out-modeled pretty badly. And you can see that they're getting kind of dragged down. If they try and pull away, the Saber-Tusks can get lots of free attacks, which will be super painful. More Hellstriders moving in just in time for the Bulls to arrive as well. And more Saber Tusks. I just, man, love Saber Tusks. Such a strong unit for the Ogres. Probably one of the best kind of mobile War Beast units in the game right now, to be honest. Even though they do count as large, unlike most Hounds, they're still just high weapon damage, decent mass, cheap cost. I mean, their low leadership is not the best, and the fact that they enrage is a little painful, but there you go. They managed to pull all the Hellstriders away from the objective, and now the Bulls set up on the objective itself. They will be able to outweigh those Hellstriders, so should be getting in a decent amount of capture soon. You can see Dismember also used on this other Hellstrider just to keep them back and away from the objective, but Kark's going to have to take this very soon. I mean, he's got about 30 seconds to try and take this objective from Ulrich. Let's see if he's able to do so. Ogre Bulls probably should just force path through right now, honestly. But more Hellstriders being pulled in, more Bulls being pulled in, and he's only got about 15 seconds to capture this objective. Can he get it done? Things are looking very, very bad right now. I said 30 seconds. I meant actually like 80 seconds, whatever. I don't know. Math. Now it's 40 seconds. There we go. I promise I can math. So a little bit of extra time there, perhaps, but let's see. More Bulls piling onto the objective. I'm going to keep the UI up so you can see the critical engagement as it's playing out. 24 seconds. 20 seconds now. And the objective is so close to being captured. Yes, the Bulls managed to get the job done just in time with 15 seconds left to go in the match before Ulrich was able to achieve victory there. The Bulls managed to wrest control of that objective. Question is, can they hold it? Yes, they definitely can. Bulls with dual weapons punching through, and still about a 2,000 value damage lead for Kark. Though he never really raced fully away. I mean, 2,000 damage value is a pretty significant amount, but still barely able to win there with the Ogres. And a win for Greasus against arguably one of the best factions in the game. I mean, probably a little bit lower than maybe Tomb Kings right now or some of the other undead factions in Domination, but still, I mean, it's Slaanesh in Domination, and Greasus was able to come in, not necessarily pay for himself, but he did win, technically. So, there you go. I love the pick of the Fire Belly there as well. Great use of the Burning Heads, kind of bouncing that off of the terrain. Bulls also super cost-effective in this matchup, generally. They can trade into the right targets. They're one of the few units that can actually trade okay against Hellstriders, given the right engagement. But, yeah, the rest of the Bulls, super cost-effective on the Saber Tusks as well. Just this super wide, high-damage build is actually kind of scary for Slaanesh. It's one of the reasons why Ogres are, in my opinion, kind of a soft counter for Slaanesh, just because of that. For Ulrich here, I mean, both the Soul Grinders didn't end up paying for themselves. I get why you would bring them, but at the same time, they're just kind of meh at the end of the day. Arguably would have been better to maybe go with, like, just lots of Hellscourge infantry or something. I don't really know, to be honest. But the Hellstriders are definitely super, super strong. Definitely want to max them every single time. And the rest of the army does okay. Spawns do all right. Spearmen do all right, as expected. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this one, though. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.